the best type of property to buy in today's market 2025. If you are a first-time buyer or an investor, these are the type of properties you could look to buy. Number one would be a freestanding freehold house with land, and ideally you want to buy that in a major city. Nothing tops right now, I'd say, Auckland. If you can buy a freehold house, 3 to 4 bedroom with land of around 600 square meters in just say any real suburb right now, capital gains will hit that house, should hit that house better than anywhere else in the country. And obviously freehold is the cleanest type of title you can have, and with the new rules that are coming out for building a minor dwelling granny flat on the back of your house, you can do that if you've got the land. And of course, per square meter of land is now the cheapest it's been in years. So if you can get to the point where you can buy a freehold house with land and you had to borrow a little bit from your parents or your friends, that is the best type to unlock equity in the future. And what gets even better is if you buy something that is maybe a 3-bedroom home that sits on that land and you turn it into a 4-bedroom yourself just by changing around a few internal walls. Because remember, when you do that, you do not need council consent to change just the internal walls. If you were to expand the envelope of the house, you can do that, but you would also need a building consent. But if you have a house with land, it also gives you that option. So that is what I would say to most people to do in this market. Just try and get a deal where it's just a big house on a big piece of land in, say, Auckland. Number two, this might be a owner-occupied or most likely an investor. You'd find something that is multi-income. So this could be a home and an income where you've already got that granny flat sleep out built from the previous buyer that just wanted to exit. That's the type of property you'd want to buy because it would put cash flow, rental income, border income into your pocket. And the other thing about it is that if you are buying something of that, you can give a rental appraisal or border letter to your broker, which means now you can borrow a little bit more. But anything that is going to be multi-income is going to help, especially when interest rates might go up again, or if you were to just have an unexpected bill, you've got some cash flow savings in there. For investment properties, multi-income increases your yield and it can pay down your mortgage faster as well. Now there's easy ways to find these multi-incomes online. You could just use in the keyword searches, whether it's trade me, real estate.co.nz, multi-income, or you could put home and income or duplex or units, because this will show, especially in the description, of 1 bedroom plus a 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Investment properties, you see a lot of these around the regions. You see them in, say, Dunedin, where there's a lot of student rental incomes. They're very rare to find that are perfectly renovated, healthy homes approved, and they're for a cheap price. So this again is where negotiation skills comes into it for trying to create a deal, not just seeing the deal that's like amazing saying buy me, because if it was, chances are it'll get into a heavy multi-offer, and that's where you can miss out, especially if you're an amateur. Number three would be a new build that is in high growth areas. Now this could be anywhere around the country, and most likely if you are not an experienced investor, you would sort of just stay away from new builds, because at the end of the day, the developer is the one that profits. They profit off the person that is inexperienced and they don't know what they're doing. But there is a payoff for the buyer. That could be you. If you're buying a new build, it means that you have that 10-year warranty, you have no maintenance, it's just a perfect turnkey home. So you could actually use all the available money you have and you don't actually have to pay for anything like an existing home. Now the thing is, when it comes to buying a new build for an investment, the yield isn't going to be that much, your rent compared to what you've paid, because it is a brand new home. The price is going to be more expensive than buying an existing home that might need a new roof in 5 years. But when you're going to rent it out, chances are most tenants would love to move into a brand new home, and you can get more rent, but still the yield does not compare to buying a house that might be 600k and getting maybe $800 a week rent. Because what you're going to do if you buy a new build, you might spend $800,000 and you might only get $700 rent. So you will be cash flow negative. So buying the new build only if it's in a high growth area. Now this could be Auckland, this could be Christchurch, this could be Queenstown, this could be up north in like Omaha, this could be in Orewa, this could be in places where you know big subdivisions are going to happen. If you are experienced, you can buy off the plans at today's discounted price. By the time it's built, you get all that equity, all that capital gains. And number four, what I'll be looking at, especially if your budget is a little bit on the low side, but you're doing this more for cash flow, this is buying in the regions where capital gains might not be as high, but the rental income compared to your purchase price, the yield is high. Now I'm talking about 8 to 10% yields, where after all your expenses, you actually have a little bit more money in your pocket. All bills are paid, your mortgage is paid, your rates is put aside, your insurance, everything, and you're still making maybe $80 to $100 a week cash flow positive, which equates to around $5,000 $100,000 a year. Now, for most people, that's not making you a millionaire, but what it does give you option is as the capital gains goes up, your cash flow gives you the servicing where you can go buy again. Now, this is where you hear most of those investors in New Zealand where they go, oh, I own 6 rental properties. And people wonder how. It's because they didn't buy all of them in Auckland, because they would be capped out. For most of the inexperienced investors, they start out in the regions. They look at like Gisborne, they look at Rotorua, they look at, Dunedin, where there is a cheaper buy point, but the rent is there. Doing this is something where you could just search on Trade Me, look at properties under 500K, all of New Zealand, and then you'd look at the rental demand in those areas to make sure that you actually will get a high enough rent. Because what's also happening in this country is the rental demand is going down. So to summarize, if you're going to buy a property, is to buy a single standing freehold house with land, ideally in Auckland. Why? Because once you're living in it, you'll just get the maximum capital gains, because obviously land is the most valuable thing and it is on discount right now. It also gives you option to build on the land later on. It also gives you an option to create a granny flat or whatever. And the key thing is that when you might go to sell it and you might not do the development, the next buyer might. So it's always good to have that option. Number 2 would be dual income. So anything that's home and income, anything that is a unit or duplex, doesn't have to be in the regions. It can be in Auckland. There is still quite a lot in Auckland and in Hamilton. This is just somewhere where you've got a safeguard. So in case one rental income stops, it's highly unlikely that both tenants up and leave at the same time. Number 3 would also be buying a new build in a high growth area. How do you find this out? You could also be just typing in the suburb or the area that you're going to buy in, and you might type in like government growth fund. So you might be like Napier government growth fund on Google, and it'll come up with all the articles about the government planning to spend money there. And this is where you'll be like, okay, I guess if the government's spending money here, surely the capital gains will increase. And number 4 is obviously just buying regional cash flow investments, which will help you buy more and more properties, because some people would just rather have like 3 rental properties in the regions compared to 2 in Auckland, and they're struggling to pay the mortgage. Obviously everything comes down to your personal circumstance, where I highly recommend that you speak to a mortgage broker and they'll tell you exactly what you can afford. We do have a professional mortgage broker part of the Investor Pro Leaders program. Join up to that. You will get all the courses on how I actually look for deals, how I make my offers, and how I negotiate and read between the lines of what an agent puts online and how they actually say things on the phone. Deals aren't just on Trade Me saying, look at me, I'm 10% yield and I can make you a millionaire. No way. You have to be educated to actually talk to the agent and bring the price down, make it a win-win for the vendor if you can, but most importantly, make it a win for you.